Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Peyton Muse. Tonight, we're taking a look at the award-winning stories produced here in the Cronkite School of Journalism at ASU.
I got a case about 2 years ago that involved allegations of sex trafficking, money laundering.
Brad Rideout served as initial counsel to Amanda Yamauchi, the accused leader of a sex trafficking ring operating through massage parlors in western Arizona.
Amanda, you're under arrest, okay?
In September 2018, Yamauchi was arrested on 9 felony charges, including operating a house of prostitution and money laundering.
I don't run a business. I don't tell them what to do. They will legally work here.
Federal officers had come in and they decided to do an investigation, a sting operation on some massage parlors.
Rideout obtained Homeland Security Investigations undercover reports detailing 17 sexual encounters between federal agents and the women who were the subjects of their 5-month investigation.
You can see the approvals and when they were approved on the police reports. So it went through an approval process. It wasn't like it was a mistake.
A spokeswoman for HSI told the Howard Center the agent's behavior was, quote, not consistent with HSI policy. But retired HSI senior agent Louis Garcia told the Howard Center he doesn't recall ever seeing a policy in writing that bans sexual activity with subjects of an investigation.
I don't recall the policy manual saying you can't have sex with human trafficking victims. I just know that's something we are not allowed to do.
Now representing another suspect in the case, Rideout tried to get those undercover agents to testify in court, but HSI refused to cooperate. Unable to produce these material witnesses, the state's case fell apart.
The state dismissed the case at that point in time.
In December 2019, all charges against Yamauchi and other alleged key players were dropped. For those women working in the spas, a different fate. At least 2 were charged with prostitution, and another 2 were declared sex trafficking victims.
It doesn't mean that there weren't more victims out there, just depending on the luck of when the search warrant is done. It can also mean that some of the victims were charged too, so that in this particular case.
According to HSI, 1 woman pleaded guilty to prostitution and is currently awaiting removal proceedings. 2 victims were taken out of state to get help, but the whereabouts of the other women are largely unknown. With the Howard Center for Investigative Journalism, I'm James Paidusis.
When George Floyd was killed in Minnesota, social justice movements swept across the country.
Michael Gutnick explains how that moment inspired a black hockey player at Arizona State to share his own experiences with racism.
Dominic Garcia is the ultimate hype man. Garcia takes his uplifting spirit in stride every time he takes the ice.
For me, it's like something that's come naturally, and it's what I'm able to do effectively to help our team the most.
On the outside, Garcia exudes positive energy, but on the inside, he kept something to himself for a very long time: racial abuse.
I just remember, kind of being on the ice and hearing it.
Garcia was first called a racial slur at 10 years old during Pee Wee hockey. It didn't stop there. It continued with him from Nevada to Indiana to Pennsylvania.
For me, it was just another thing I've gone through.
When the death of George Floyd sparked an outcry for social justice across the country, Garcia wasn't sure whether to stand and speak up. That's when ASU head coach Greg Powers, along with Mitch Terrell, the team's sports information director, provided Garcia the team's platform to be heard.
Mitch ran the idea by me, and obviously I was fully supportive of it, and then reached out to Dom just like Mitch did, and Dom took it and ran with it.
On June 17th, Garcia released a letter, a powerful yet heartbreaking statement that shocked his teammates and coaches.
I honestly didn't know. I didn't really talk to him about
prior to that, well, what he's gone through and stuff like that, and to hear, some of his stories and, some of the things that he had to go through it was pretty heartbreaking, to be honest.
Yeah, I was sad, like just because he's such a happy-go-lucky kid, and I haven't seen that part of him.
What was most surprising? Garcia hadn't told anyone, not even his mother.
After reading it, I told him that I was very proud of him. I remember expressing a lot of pride in him, in his letter, in the way that he handled it, that he shared it. I did tell him that I was really proud of the way that he shared what he had gone through.
Pamela has always encouraged her boys to buckle down and go the extra mile to overcome adversity.
They've just been told, you're going to have to work harder to prove yourself, because your color is what is going to be seen first. Before your work ethic, before any of that other stuff, your color is going to be seen first. And then you're going to have to, then, once they see what you can do, then they'll be like, oh, okay, and it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And so that's what I always told them. That's what they've been brought up with.
Dominic said he has been fortunate to not experience any racism at the college level. ASU is one of the most diverse rosters in NCAA Division I hockey. His maroon and gold teammates have had his back since practices resumed in early October.
We're going to keep supporting him, and we understand that it's like, recent events is just, not, it's not right. And, but we're here for Dom on and off the ice.
What he does is very, underrated. I don't think a lot of people, appreciate, the work ethic that he comes in, day out. It's not an easy job to go out there and block shots and put your, body on the line and stuff like that, but he does it, and he does it with a smile on his face.
Garcia's teammates have taken the time to sit down with him and fully understand his experiences.
I talked to Willie Nierum probably for 45 minutes, I think maybe before or right after, and he had no idea. So for him, he just wanted to learn and understand, and so we talked about it, and I think we both come out better because of those conversations.
Over the summer, a group called the Hockey Diversity Alliance gained notoriety, calling to suppress systemic racism and intolerance in hockey. Garcia sees the Alliance's movement as a step in the right direction.
It's hard, especially something like this. It's not going to change overnight, right? So it's going to take players in the NHL, in that alliance or in college, all over, in years to come, to continue it and, try and teach the right things and understand one another.
As he holds up the lineup card and shouts out his teammates' names one by one, Garcia hopes that he provides not just a burst of energy, but a spark for spreading racial equality on and off the ice. For Cronkite Sports Report, I'm Michael Gutnick.
There is a surge in the coronavirus cases among the incarcerated people in the Arizona Department of Corrections. Cronkite News reporter Caitlin Keenahan explored the reason behind the spread.
There are more than 49,000 coronavirus cases among incarcerated people in the United States, and the Arizona Department of Corrections Rehabilitation and Reentry has reported 421 of them. The ADCRR holds more than 40,000 inmates, and the number of reported positive COVID-19 cases is nowhere near the full picture.
There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety.
North's husband is an inmate at Kingman. He's 78 years old, vulnerable to the virus, and completely unable to practice social distancing.
You're passing just that close, shoulder to shoulder, breathing on each other. That's how you go to your chow, right? That's how you go to get your pills, your medications.
The same thing was reported from other facilities.
I got neighbors 3 feet from me on each side. We all share the same bathroom, and there's no way for us to do it in there.
Wagner was released from the Yuma Cibola unit on June 8th. Yuma has been one of the worst complexes in terms of incubating COVID-19. It is well over 4,700 inmates, and the ADCRR tested 519 for the virus. Of those, 415 tested negative, and 100 tested positive, almost 1 in 5.
People that had tested positive out of every single dorm on the yard. So therefore, the whole dorm had been exposed.
I reached out to the Arizona Department of Corrections about this and received a standard reply saying the ADCRR continues to separate any inmates who exhibit flu-like symptoms from the general population for monitoring and appropriate follow-up care. But that does not seem to be the case behind closed doors. When inmates report symptoms, they are being turned away with no test.
All medical told them was you're dehydrated, drink some water, go back to the dorm.
There is nobody in the runs that my husband is near to that has been able to get a test. Not a single one.
The ADCRR also highlighted the other precautionary measures they were taking to protect inmates from the virus, such as suspending inmate visitation, halting inmate transfers to avoid cross-contamination, and providing small bars of soap upon request. But one critical component was missing from this list.
We'd ask the warden, why aren't we getting masks? And the warden would tell us to address medical. We address medical, and medical would tell us to address administration. And we could never get a straight answer.
Unlike Yuma, Kingman recently started providing 3 masks a week per inmate after seeing how desperately people desired them.
They wanted to reduce how much they had become a commodity, because people with no money were trading them.
Masks were also not mandatory for any staff until June 12th, when Director David Shin released this employee notice saying this method has proven to be very effective in preventing the transmission of the virus. Meanwhile, fear continues to escalate for the inmates inside.
They're scared. They're scared that their year sins or their 2-year sins is going to turn into life sins.
Governor Doug Ducey announced Monday that inmates will start to be provided masks by the end of the week.
We have confirmation that all inmates, all correctional officers, and anyone released from state prison will leave with several masks.
Caitlin Keenahan, Cronkite News.
This story is made possible through a partnership between the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and the Center for the Study of Religion in Conflict at Arizona State University, with the support of the Henry Luce Foundation.
In South Dakota, a dance. In Hawaii, a piece of artwork. And in Alberta, Canada, a song. This one sang by Quade Mountain Horse, just 7 years old.
He's been singing since the time he could talk.
He's singing on the Social Distance Powwow group on Facebook.
I love to sing.
This time of year is when many tribal communities host powwows, a time to showcase Native traditions.
Native peoples have been gathering and celebrating for eons. We congregate and we celebrate at events called powwows. They're exceptional social events,
which historically have been inspirational, has been a way for Native American people to get through challenging times or to keep you uplifted, to keep you grounded, to keep you connected.
But most powwows have been canceled due to the pandemic.
We've had this taken away, but we will not be deterred. We'll find a way.
And so they did. Stephanie Aber, Dan Simons, and Whitney Rencounter created the Social Distance Powwow group on Facebook to bring virtual powwows to life and to help with healing.
I'm dancing for helping our healing for the people that are infected by the COVID-19.
In this time, there's a lot of folks in our Native community who are sick or their family members have tested positive. And very sadly, several of our members have reported that they've lost family to the virus. And another thing that dancers do is we pray. We pray for healing, we pray for strength, and we pray for our communities, and we pray over our people.
Some Native communities have been hit particularly hard, including the Navajo Nation, which saw hundreds of cases by mid-April.
Instead of being defeated in the COVID-19 pandemic, we felt like it was important to do something to try to find a place for people to come.
He says the group is a way to uplift people and keep everyone connected through Native American or Indigenous song, dance, and art.
I knew it was going to be big because powwow people, we live for it.
But they never expected it to take off so quickly.
We had no idea.
Within a week, we had about 60,000 people at our first powwow.
Now, the Facebook group has members from around the globe.
It certainly blew our minds out of the water in terms of how many people are on this group and how many different parts of the world.
I mean, Alaska, Australia, that's amazing.
Quade's parents never expected such a big response to their son's video either.
Oh, I was so amazed. Quaid was amazed, and
When you saw the likes like that.
yeah, he's more interested in the likes.
Over 1,400 of them. But it's much more than just the numbers.
It's time for us to be seen and heard. And that's kind of what this movement has brought. You know, it's a chance for us to be seen and heard, and people are seeing it and feeling it.
And a lot of them, for the first time, have opened their eyes and their minds and their hearts to indigenous songs, dances, art, storytelling.
And it's finally a movement for natives by natives.
And it all comes back to being connected to one another.
The ways that Native people gather
During a time that it's needed the most.
are so family-oriented and friend-oriented, and we thrive on those social connections.
During this time of pause, during this time of change, we're kind of coming back to what really is important to us, and that's family. And that's our connection to other things in this world.
All three of us now are just blown away by the positivity this has brought and the healing that this has brought.
We have a saying in our language, we say mitakuye oyasi, which means all my relations, that we're all related, we're all connected in this world.
And as for Quaid,
I like making people happy.
he'll continue doing just that by connecting people through the songs he sings at home in Canada that echo all around the world. In Phoenix, Jennifer Alvarez, Cronkite News.
That's it for this special edition of Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. Next on Break It Down, should you restrict your child's time spent playing video games? And for top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Break It Down is brought to you in part by Mayo Clinic and viewers like you.
China has made international headlines by limiting screen time, specifically video game time for under 18-year-olds to 3 hours a week. And it's got a lot of parents in the US, including me, thinking, should we be re-strategizing game time at our houses? Elena Lowry, help us break this down. Does China have the right idea?
Well, actually, no, from where we're sitting. So I don't see China's new rule really having much influence on what happens here in the US in terms of regulation. I think our kids would be better served with parents just spending a little more time with their kids who are doing the video gaming.
We hear a lot about this concept of digital addiction. What is that, and how much of a problem is that, especially for young folks?
The word addiction gets used a lot to describe a certain kind of focused attention on media and technology. So we might say that we're addicted to checking our email, right, as adults. Kids, however, they might display what kind of looks like addictive behavior when they're only super engaged in creating something or getting to the next level on a video game. We talked about China. They said they created this new rule to curb youth video game addiction, but diagnoses of similar disorders really vary a lot across different countries. Really addicted, and I put that in quote, addicted gamers only represent about 1% to 3% of all gamers. And you remember, it is really difficult to have any kind of accurate estimate because of the lack of transparency and the lack of clarity that goes into what gaming addiction is. And so the vast majority of gamers wouldn't be considered addicted. So we have to think about that first before we start talking about what can we do or what should parents be looking out for.
So that's fascinating. And I'll tell you, it's fascinating to me as a parent, especially with a little guy who is really into his video games, and it seems to be kind of the primary way that a lot of young folks socialize with each other. Not only just gaming with themselves, they're gaming with each other. It's sort of like a group activity, and they're chatting during that time. So how much time is the right amount of time? I guess that's a question that many of us have as parents.
Excessive gaming, we know, has been associated with bad sleep, eye strain, wrist strain, even obesity, poor school performance, and in some cases, social withdrawal. However, you mentioned the fact that a lot of kids are playing these online games with other people. That's great. And that is one way that, Common Sense has done research, and we've found that that is actually a really good way for kids to socialize. But again, everything in moderation, right? How many times as adults do we hear this when we talk about our diet or when we talk about drinking? Everything in moderation. And so it's the same thing for kids on video games.
I want to hear what you have to say about the ding, ding, ding word quality of screen time.
Not all screens are created equal. A lot of parents are worried that online classroom time is adding to kids' screen time, and it really shouldn't be. So even with adults, if we're reading a newspaper article from the Wall Street Journal, that's very different than scrolling for puppy videos. You know what I mean? So good content is going to be the key. Parents should be really careful. They should be choosing high quality media. So age appropriate. We should be talking about things like, is it educational? Is it something that is going to require my child to be online for 3 hours from a game standpoint? With Common Sense, one of the things that parents know us for is our ratings and reviews of all media for kids. So whether it's video games or movies or books, apps, we're also moving into podcasts. We rate and review, not thumbs up and thumbs down, and this is good and this is bad, but we have a rubric that we use to help parents really determine, are there good role models in this content? Whether it's a movie or a book. Is there negative imagery? Is there bad language? Is there nudity? I mean, we point out all of those things so that a parent of a 12-year-old, in your case, might not want their kids seeing something that, has a lot of violence or has a lot of nudity, or, at 12 years old, you don't want your kids seeing that. So that's the kind of thing that parents really need to pay attention to and look for. And that's what I mean about that quality media.
Yeah, and that's really helpful. And by the way, we use Common Sense. We use the website. A lot of parents are having to figure out, how do you navigate from going from the kind of child to tween to teen, and what is the content and how you determine quality. What do you think about sort of excessive use, or what is excessive in terms of how much movie time should they get? How much TV time should they get? And how does that compare to the other type of screen time, which is like video games, being on YouTube, being on TikTok, etc.?
Let's talk about video games first, because these are some key symptoms according to experts and to research that, that we have done. If most non-school, or if all non-school hours are spent gaming, that's a flag. If your kids are lying about computer or video game use, that's a flag. They would choose a video game rather than to play with their friends. And by that, I don't mean a video game that they're playing with their friends, but for some of the younger kids, especially, rather than just like going and hanging with their friends, are they unable to stop gaming for a few days straight? That is a serious red flag. And then another one that parents should be aware of is if they're moody when they're not playing, right? Mm-hmm. So they can be downright hostile if you tell them no video games for a week, right? If parents use that as punishment, which we don't.
End of the world. End of the world. Yes.
End of the world. If you see any of those red flags and you're concerned that your kids might be addicted to gaming, don't dismiss it as a phase. You do want to address it. One thing parents can do, whether it's gaming or any kind of screen time behavior, is to keep track of it. Try to use like a small journal or a notebook of when they play and for how long, any problems that result, how they react to the time limits that you might be putting on them, which parents should be putting some time limits on. And then you'll know if you need to seek professional help. And we know, you and I both know as adults that addictions are real and they need experienced, informed people to help, really try to conquer it. And so don't ignore it. Don't just say, oh, he's a 12-year-old, and so that's all he does is play video games. I mean, we know that a typical teen's day from our research, and I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw these numbers. A typical teen's day includes up to 9 hours of texting, gaming, watching videos, and posting on multiple social media networks. So, and they're doing this while they're doing their homework. So it does make parents wonder if their kids are addicted, you know, to technology or, you know, to gaming. So try to keep track if you can, just, you know, for a few weeks to see if maybe there really is a problem.
Elena Lowry, thank you so much for helping us break this down. We got to figure out how to find balance in a highly connected world. And let's keep this conversation going. Please join us in the comment section below. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you. If you have comments about Arizona PBS News, please contact us at one of the addresses on your screen. Thank you.
Cronkite News provides students at ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism with the opportunity to gain real-world experience in the newsroom. At Cronkite News, our students produce professional content for audiences by taking on all roles, whether they be reporting, anchoring, producing, or studio production. Each department gives students first-hand professional newsroom experience. For more information, visit cronkitenews.azpbs.org.